Hey fight fans, welcome back again to another episode with the African Fighters. And on today's episode, we're going to be giving you 3 things that Dricus Du Plessis has to do to emerge victorious against Robert the Reaper Whittaker. Let's get right into it. Number 1, he needs to make this a very dirty fight. This is something a lot of people have said, and to be honest, it makes a lot of sense. Why? Well, there are 2 ways to fight Whittaker. You can outstrike him, like easy, or you can turn it into a brawl. Now, I don't think Dricus necessarily has the abilities to do what Easy does against Whittaker. Plus, he doesn't have the length and he doesn't have the skill and the technique of striking to do that. So his next best option is to do what people like Yoel Romero, Darren Till, and those who have found a little bit of success. Obviously those guys did not win against Whittaker, but they were the closest fights that he's been in. And so taking something away from those fights can only serve Dricus very well. What does he have to do? He needs to make that fight very, very dirty. If it's a clean striking battle, I promise you, Robert Whittaker would outstrike him because he's the cleaner fighter, he's more technical, he can stay in the pocket and pick you apart. But if you turn this into a brawl and force him to brawl, you might stand a chance. Look at the fight against Yoel Romero. Romero making sure he stayed in the fire, did not overreact on feints, and then was able to land clean. Obviously, he wasn't able to put him away with those shots, but we saw Whittaker in deep, deep waters. Now, the next person who also had a chance of dragging Whittaker down was Darren Till. Now, I understand that Darren Till and Dricus are 2 completely different fighters. Darren Till is predominantly southpaw, and so that matchup against Robert Whittaker was kind of a chess match, but there are some things he can take away. Now, another southpaw who fought Robert Whittaker and absolutely got destroyed was Marvin Vettori. Now, Vettori also tried to do the whole brawl thing with Whittaker, where he would pressure him and try and get him to brawl. But the difference is Vettori just stood right in front of Whittaker, not throwing anything, not throwing combinations, and then he got picked apart. I believe in moments when you're not engaging in the brawl, you have to stay away from him. Understanding the distance and how fast he is with his hands and his feet is going to be very, very key. Robert Whittaker is one of the best counter-punchers, counter-strikers that you will find in that division, and so Dricus has to be aware of that. So it's simple, turn it into a slugfest on your own terms, and then stay out of the distance when you are not engaging. Easier said than done though, because Robert Whittaker is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Dricus also needs to be aware of the high kick by Robert Whittaker, so he tends to throw the 1-2 and then the high kick. Sometimes he throws it without that first combination, but he's very sneaky with it, and he can catch you even when you think you're out of range. So he has to be very, very wary of that. Vettori got clipped with it, I think 3 times in the same fight. Darren Till, because of his length and his distance and the fact that he's a southpaw who understands striking, was able to stay out of the way of it. Easy will see it coming any day, anytime because of his style and because of his skill set. Romero got caught a couple of times and he's caught a couple of big fighters with this kick. Dricus needs to be aware of it. Number 2, Dricus Du Plessis cannot get starstruck. This is simple. It means you cannot step into that octagon and give too much respect to Robert Whittaker, where you're just taking punches and you're not dishing them out. Fighters tend to get into the ring against the very greats in this sport and then become starstruck. Big example is what happened in the last UFC showing, where Irene Aldana couldn't let her hands go against Amanda Nunes, and she paid dearly for it because by the time she was ready to do so, Amanda was already 2-0 up. Now, this is not even a 5-round fight, this is a 3-round fight, and if Dricus Du Plessis does not get into the fight on time and loses round 1 just because he's not letting his hands go, showing too much respect for Robert Whittaker, that might be a problem. Whittaker hasn't finished anybody since 2017, and that was against Souza, who was nearing the end of his career. So even though Whittaker is one of the greatest of all time, the likelihood of him putting you out with 1 shot is very slim. We've seen him catch people flush and they're still in there. He's hit Romero with his best punch and Romero was still there. He's hit Darren Till with his best punch. He's hit Adesanya with his best punch. Those guys have taken his punch and they're still there. So I don't think being too cautious will favor Dricus Du Plessis. He needs to go out there and he needs to let his hands go. He also doesn't need to worry too much about his cardio. As I said earlier, it's just a 3-round fight. Dricus has been in 3-round fights all his life. He can definitely last 3 rounds in the octagon against Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker has amazing cardio, but he's not necessarily going to push the pace using his cardio. And so if you're bothered too much about what the critics have to say about his cardio and him getting the nose surgery and all of that, and then he's trying to conserve energy, I think he will lose the fight. He needs to throw everything he has at Robert Whittaker from the jump. And for me, number 3, Dricus Du Plessis must not initiate a wrestling battle. Now, why do I say this? I mean, Robert Whittaker has an 80% takedown defense. We've seen people like Yoel Romero try to take him down countless number of times, and they did not succeed. All they did was burn out their energy, tire out their arms, and then they get demoralized because you cannot take that man down. His takedown defense is right up there with the very best in the division. Now, I'm not saying there won't be wrestling in this fight, no, but if anybody's going to initiate the wrestling, it has to be Robert Whittaker, and then Dricus can look to defend or switch the takedowns. But if Dricus starts shooting for takedowns in this fight, I do not think he's going to find a lot of success. A lot of people have tried to wrestle Whittaker. There's not a lot of people I can point to who have done that successfully, and so I do not think wrestling is in the best interest of Dricus Du Plessis. Leave your comments in the comment section. What's your take? What do you think Dricus needs to do to win this fight? Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next episode.